Hello and welcome to episode 412 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And the man who, well, he's a sunglasses in the living room kind of guy. It's Tony Esmond.
They're not technically, they're meant to be those glasses you're meant to wear when you do a lot of screen work.
What do you mean?
They cut down the blue light.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they're for. Yeah, although I do look fucking cool as shit.
Yeah, you did look like Roddy Piper from They Live.
Or covered in blood.
Yeah. I ain't daddy's little boy no more.
Well, keep that to yourself, Dan.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to the show, everyone.
As a lesser known They Live quote there.
Okay.
Welcome
From
to
the
the
dark
show.
web.
And from the dark web, which is where most of our listeners come from. No, of course not. If you're listening to this show, we love you very much, and you love comics.
Yeah.
And
got a cracking episode coming up.
Yeah. We got a fun little interview with Jordan Plosky.
So I'd like to put it out there. I apologise for fucking both the date up and the time. And it was solved by me sitting whilst walking the dog, sitting on a log in a field, trying to email Jordan with times.
It all came out in the wash and the interview
Came out fine at the end, and
fantastic.
he was a fucking gent about it. Yeah.
Yes. So if you want to find out more about the crowdfunding platform Zoop, and because we've talked about it a couple of times, but it was a chance to actually sort of find out what it's all
It's
about.
a bit different, man. It's a bit different. It's an interesting combination. I think people, when they hear about it, will think, "Oh, I like that idea." You know what I mean?
Whether it be from the creator side or just the person who's pledging on stuff.
I like the idea of a bit more curation of quality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
there was a real sort of, I could feel the concentration, as you were saying, curation of quality. That's quite a mouthful, isn't it?
well, fucking comic got greenlighted on Kickstarter, and it was completely like a paid plagiarized from a previous campaign.
That was mad.
Everything lifted. So how did this get through?
Yeah.
It was on its way to getting funded.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Took us ages to get authorised or verified this time around as well. In fact, we were late putting our project out because it took ages. When things like that just fucking seem to sail through.
We'll put all the ranting after the interview,
Yeah.
James.
Okay,
Come on,
fair enough.
Come on, there's nothing but positivity.
Do you know where you don't get ranting, Vince?
Where?
Comic House.
Yes, our lovely sponsors, who are still sponsoring this madhouse. They are an indie comic marketplace that loves indie comics as much as we do, and you do. Because if you listen to this show, you're probably here for the comic content. Because this show actually has some. It's not just this nonsense for 90 minutes. There's a huge selection of titles on the Comic House database. And if you self-publish, you can list your book on there as well. It's another avenue to get your work out into the world. As is the app. Digital comics are far and wide, probably what a lot of people are reading these days. Whether you've got a webcomic that's been collected, or whether you've got old PDFs of some of your old work, maybe collecting dust on a hard drive. I don't think that's what happens to digital files, Vince, but never mind. But if you've got those files,
I don't understand that world.
then you can put them on the Comic House app, and it's another avenue to get your work out there. And it's a brilliant way to read comics. I mean, I like to save a few up and then like have a little bit of a Comic House binge. Don't you, gents?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Jump on and then read a load.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of stuff. Guests, past, present, future, even us. We've got work on there. So definitely, to find out more, there's a 14-day free trial for it. It's basically like Netflix for comics. Subscription service, £3 a month, and you get access to so many brilliant independent comics that's being added to all the time. So to find out more, go to comichouse.com, and thank you to them, as always, for supporting the show.
Yeah, good lads.
Speaking of show, let's actually get on with the meat and potatoes.
No fucking around.
Or if you're not,
get in there.
what's a good replacement for the meat in meat and potatoes, Tony? Because you're a vegetarian.
Nut roast.
Let's.
You let yourself into these things.
That's
Roasted nuts.
yes.
Yeah.
Enough of these nuts. No, I can't even get the train back on
Ain't
track.
working, yeah.
So while I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing, and while my brain's trying to get this show working again, you need some brilliant comic content. So how about a chat about Zoop? Okay then, it's quite an exciting one this week, as we're joined by the man and the creative genius or the mastermind behind something we've talked about quite a few times on this show, especially recently.
Yeah.
That is Zoop, and that man is Jordan Plosky. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me, and thanks for those kind words. I don't know if any of them are true. I'm just the guy dumb enough to try to make this happen.
No, we find it really
totally
interesting,
true.
man. And some of the books what you've been putting through to us, fucking class.
Amazing.
Yeah, really good.
So we'll just get right into it to begin with. For those who people probably thought, if this is your first episode, welcome everyone. But you're probably thinking, what on earth is this Zoop? So take it away. What is it?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to kind of like reach out and explain it.
Oh, pleasure.
But yeah, Zoop. So people are probably very familiar with crowdfunding right now. It's kind of one of these hot up and coming markets, specifically in the world of comics. A lot of creators are turning to it, maybe even perhaps turning away from traditional publishing models. Most people are very familiar with Kickstarter. Kickstarter has sort of become synonymous. It's like the Google. I'm going to Google something. I'm not going to go to my search engine. I'm going to go to Google. So Kickstarter is sort of that in the world of crowdfunding.
Kickstarter is almost shorthand for all the platforms, kind of, for some people, isn't it? I think, it
is, and it's definitely one of our uphill battles. So because we are a competitor to Kickstarter, we are another crowdfunding platform. The big difference between us and Kickstarter, though, is that we're full service, or I should say we offer two models. One is our sort of apples to apples with Kickstarter. The other one is our full service, or I should say our full suite of services for creators. And that is everything from running the campaign on Zoop to we can act as your campaign manager. We're your in-house marketing team. We handle the printing and fulfillment. And when I say printing, it's also manufacturing. So if we've done puzzles. We have a tarot card campaign that's coming up. We've done pins and bookmarks and art prints and posters and all of that stuff. So we have relationships with vendors, and we are we do all the heavy lifts for creators who just want to either write or draw, and they don't want to package, hundreds of packages or figure out how to, calculate shipping for all this stuff. We sort of just take that heavy lift off their plate, and they now have this in-house all-in-one team. So it lowers the barrier to entry for a lot of creators, specifically the ones who are doing freelance work for Marvel and DC. They have maybe an art book or a sketchbook or some creator-owned stuff, but they just don't have the time to really run their campaign at the same time that they need to keep paying bills and hitting deadlines. So that's kind of where we come in to help a lot of creators like that.
And I think
because we were
bringing that up. We took sorry, Tony. Just like those sort of crowdfunding things that you mentioned, like the pros. We've said, unfortunately, a few times on this show that some professionals run these Kickstarters or these crowdfunders, and they're just not delivering on them. Probably because they're busy with all these different things, so they can't handle the fulfillment, because a lot of it is a one-man band. You're packing it, you're sending it. All the boxes are in your house, etc. And if you're a full-time, I don't know, one of the artists for the big two, that's
paying a mortgage.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, that then is a knock-on effect to possibly your professional reputation, isn't it? Really. For a lot of these artists and writers, etc.
It could certainly be for your crowdfunding reputation. An unfulfilled campaign is definitely, like, people don't forget. They really don't.
Yeah, they don't, do they? Yeah.
And I don't look. I think that people get into a campaign with the best intentions, and maybe they just didn't plan properly. So they're like, "Hey, this is great. I just made $10,000 or $5,000 or $20,000, whatever that number is." And then when the campaign's over, maybe they just didn't think about those next steps. Maybe they didn't think about, like, where am I supposed to, order 500 Gemini mailers, and then, oh my God, I have this spreadsheet of all the backers. I don't know how to, figure out who gets what. And then they just get overwhelmed. And, I think, like most creative people, when you get overwhelmed, you just tend to, forget, like, oh, well, that never happened. And, like, kind of push it aside. But,
you're kind of walking the line between being a publisher and being a crowdfunder. So there is that I mean, that's your selling point, really, isn't it? That you've got this extra element to it, I'm going to guess. Is that right? Or
yeah, kind of. I mean, we call ourselves a pseudo publisher. I mean, we're not giving advance. We're not paying advances. We're not providing editorial, which is a pro and a con. Because some people love the fact that they don't have to jump through hoops, or that they get to tell exactly what story they want to tell without any without any other input or feedback. But yeah, so like a pseudo publisher in that regard, because we do have those services that,
and that can be a good thing. I mean, I think it's a great service, and but I think it can be a good thing and a bad thing in that sometimes people do need an editor, don't they? And you must, not that I don't know whether it's happened to you or not, but you must look at things and think, oh Christ, I wish they'd move this along, or this didn't really need another 100 pages, or
Well, I'll definitely tell you when it comes to schedules. Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's been the biggest hurdle with some of our projects is not necessarily the creative and like what's on the paper, what's on the page, but really getting things delivered in time. I mean, for the most part, we have a really good track record of going to print and delivering, but sometimes creators just fall behind, for any number of different reasons. There have been creators who've dropped off projects. There's been babies. There's been sickness. There's been everything that kind of, stalls
rubbish
production.
Excuses, Jordan, rubbish.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's not, they're not my excuses. I'm just, I'm the one that sort of has to deal with that and kind of, in a way act as that editor, be like, all right, I get it, and let's at least have an update for people so they know, like, hey, we hit another road bump. Hey, we had a family member pass away. Hey, I had to have some teeth extracted. Like, these are all like real things that have happened. And
it's all about communication, isn't it? Communication is the key.
That's the most important.
That is key.
Always
Definitely.
is with this.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, the updates are key. Look, at the end of the day, everybody, we're all people, right?
Yeah.
And real life gets in the way. And for people to, like, just really take getting their comic book delivered to them when they want it to be as like their top priority, it's like, man, like maybe you need to rethink your priorities a little bit, but it'll come. Like, your book will arrive. That's one of the things that we, I can't say that we can ensure, because again, things happen, but like for the most part, I think that we give people a sense of trust and a sense of like, oh, it's all right. Like, it's not just this creator on his own. He has a team of people who are helping them, and I'm going to get my book. And as long as, again, we're transparent with what's been going on, we've gotten just, overwhelmingly really good feedback. And one thing I got to tell you guys is, unlike on Kickstarter, we do not have a comments section. And I don't know how frequently you guys are on Kickstarter, but those comment sections tend to be,
they can be like YouTube sometimes.
They can be pretty wild.
They're just 85-90% just dumpster fire garbage and trash. And it's like, why are you even on this page? Like, you're supposed to be a fan of this person. Why are you just leaving, like crappy messages? Like, so we don't have that. And whenever people have like an actual real question or concern, they'll email us, and we take on that customer support for our clients as well. So it's really, we do a lot on top of and above and beyond what other platforms do. Yeah.
I can see a lot of people thinking that's a great selling point as well, Jordan. So I was looking at a recent one and thinking, this dude, he writes something on the comments every single day. You see people do it.
Yeah.
But from sort of birth to completion, how does it run for you? Do you approach creators, or do they approach you? I'm guessing it's a mixture these days, is it? Or
it is. I mean, when we first started, so we launched in June 2021. We're coming up on our 2-year birthday. When we first started, it was 100% outreach.
Okay.
But now, we get referrals. We have, creators who have run campaigns with us before who are telling their friends, hey man, like, this worked out great for me. I got to put my book out. I made some money, and I didn't really have to do much of anything, and then just when we have some high profile campaigns, like, it helps other people discover us for the first time as well. I mean, I don't know, if you guys have been on the site, we have a campaign called Full Tilt right now.
It's getting a lot of heat, man, isn't it? The Jason Copland one. Yeah,
but the point I was going to make is, like, because of that one campaign, I mean, we get to see who's backing that campaign, and the list of like names that we recognize, from other creators is like, oh man, this is awesome. And for them to see, like, oh, this guy just put out a campaign and it's like nearing $40,000. If he can do that, maybe I could do that as well. And because of, again, campaigns like his and Jorge Molina's, like, we get inbound inquiries now from other creators. So it is a mix. But certainly, I was just at a show yesterday, walking Artist Alley and having conversations with more artists, and trying to bring them onto the page. So I'm in Southern California. This was a show called Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario, California.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Good show.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and then I'll be at Heroes Con in June. We'll be at
I was at Heroes last year. I won't be there this year. Oh, that's a shame.
Oh,
okay.
Bummer.
That's a good show, man. Great show.
It really is. I mean, for me, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Like there's just like tons of, high profile creators who are all there, who some of them have decades of work under their belt. They may not realize that they're just sitting on content. And I don't mean to say it like that. I hate using the word content, but they're sitting on projects that maybe the rights reverted back to them from 25 years ago or something like that. And they have all the files. It's like, hey, let's get another bite at the apple. Slap a new cover on, and you don't have a lot of work that you need to do. Let's re-release this thing, make you some extra money, some found money that you never were going to make any other way.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies that sort of, there's a lot of, for example, someone like First Comics or Eclipse or Comico or something like that. There's a lot of content there, isn't it, that just doesn't get reprinted. You can't find it unless you dig in a back issue box. But there's a lot of stories there that I'd love to see reprinted. Yeah,
well,
definitely.
The problem with stuff like that is like not knowing who the rights holders are, not knowing who to approach specifically for things like that. Like, I don't know who owns Comico,
Comico is a weird example, isn't it? I think there's a number of lawsuits around that stuff. Yeah.
Sure. So, it makes it difficult. There are other imprints, older imprints that have, since gone away that, we're trying to like figure out, at least on maybe a title by title basis, like how can we get the rights to some things? Not necessarily us, but I mean, like, how can we figure out who has the rights and if they're interested in doing a reprint or, a prestige edition or just like some new format that the book hasn't ever been in before.
Yeah, no. I was looking at Maggie the Cat and Shaman's Tears from Mike Grell the other day, which almost made it onto Kickstarter, and then they got pulled. So I don't know what's happening with that sort of thing. Yeah, no, I think there's a market for it, definitely. But the other thing that you hold that Kickstarter doesn't perhaps hold is you have. I've seen you refer to it on your site as an a la carte checkout system as well. Did you want to explain what that was?
Yeah, absolutely. And we think that this is a benefit for creators and backers or supporters. The reward tier system on Kickstarter was probably cool and innovative when it came out, 12 years ago, and it made a whole lot of sense for crowdfunding. But now with the rise of e-commerce and everybody, just buying exactly what they want whenever they want, just think of Amazon Prime, basically. You could go on there and you say, all right, I need 2 of those, 1 of those, throw in a couple of those into your cart and check out, and then you're done. The same could be said for Zoop. So you can go onto our page, and instead of going through reward tiers where you're reading through like a bullet pointed list of 12 to 20 items and not even like wanting half of the things that are in that list, but the thing that you really do want is in there, and now you have to pay an extra 50, 100, 20, however much extra to get the one thing you really wanted with all the other like stuff that's like crammed into that reward tier. With us, we just offer everything on its own. So we have our rewards, we have add-ons, and you could kind of mix and match and put together as a backer exactly what you want to buy and exactly how you want to support the creator. So you're not overspending on things that you don't want just to get like the 1 or 2 things that you actually do want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. And that continues post-campaign as well, a bit like Indiegogo does, doesn't it?
Not at the moment.
Right, okay, right.
But yes, we definitely have our eye on how do we continue sales after a campaign, so that we maintain that sense of urgency during the campaign, right? Because that's kind of the ultimate goal, is to make it an event, give people a reason to back the campaign during the campaign, as opposed to like, oh, well, as soon as it's over, I could still go buy it anyway.
Yeah.
So we're having a lot of conversations about how to properly approach that, so that we still get to make the campaign an event, create a sense of urgency, but then how do we also make this book, this project, available to people who may have missed it, or give that creator sort of an evergreen place to just have like a long tail sales on their project.
Yeah, I think that can be important sometimes. I think 'cause no matter how much you spend, and we don't always spend our time on social media, you'll miss a project, won't you? I just noticed that you had a project resolution with Marz and Andy Lanning, which I never saw. And
right,
and we're fairly busy on, well, not on social media, but online.
Yeah, try and keep
nice
abreast of
to
those
be able to get it,
don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an interesting example, because that was one of our very first campaigns, and that was one where we've had to be very transparent with backers, because it's taken an incredibly long time to actually, get produced and fulfilled. We're in the printing process right now.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And we had actually done something with them because it took so long. We reopened the campaign for sort of like a final order cutoff type of thing, because we had our initial backers and the campaign did great. I think like 23,000 or something, or 23,000 if I remember off the top of my head. But then it was like, well, that was one of our first campaigns. We definitely didn't have the visibility that we have 2 years later. Maybe we could pick up some more backers, get these guys some more funding, and just say, hey, for anybody who missed it, we're going to go to print. We just need our numbers to kind of like finalize what our print run is going to be. This is your last chance. And we reopened it for another 2 weeks. And I think we did like another 1,500 or $2,000 on it. So,
that may be where I was mistaking the fact that you could buy after the campaign. Because I think, did you do the same with Nick's book as well? Did you?
We did, for the same reason, because it took so long to produce. His campaign ran in April of 2022. So we're talking with printers. I'm not talking with printers now, but I mean, like, final files are being completed and everything, and headed into print right now. But it was the same thing. His campaign is our highest grossing campaign to date so far. I think we're at 204,000 originally. Maybe we're at like 200 and I should double check. I'm not sure what we did. Maybe we're at like 210,000 now, because again, we reopened his for 2 weeks as well.
Yeah. And I think the good thing with people like Nick as well is that they're prepared. They don't just, similar to Kickstarter, and that's where you walk the line is, I speak to a lot of publishers and, work for a publisher, and they always say that a book will sell if the creator throws himself in to help with the, assist with promotion. And I think because you've got both going on, you're promoting it, but also these creators are throwing themselves into it as well. I mean, Nick was great with us. It's one of our favorite guests,
Nick is a shining example of how to heat up your audience and engage with them well before the campaign. And that makes all the difference in the world. And the thing that people need to understand is just putting your campaign on a platform doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
The majority of creators that we work with have somewhat of a fan base, and it's really like imperative on them to tap into that fan base, because we could bring icing to the cake, but we can't bring the whole cake. These creators have to bring their fan base, and then we could provide that additional 15 to 20% that Kickstarter also brings in a different way. Ours is through more what would be the word, like aggressive promotion, versus Kickstarter just saying like, well, we're Kickstarter and people just discover your books.
We're Kickstarter basically a shelf, aren't they? That's essentially it.
In a way, and I get that, because eventually that's what we intend to be as well.
Yeah. Cool. Do you think as well? I mean, I always think that what the advantage that Kickstarter has over Indiegogo is the fact they've got an app sometimes. Is that something you're going to do you think, Jordan? Or
do you guys use the Kickstarter app?
Yes. Yeah.
I can't
as a creator.
I know as a creator. Yeah, Tony, you've used it quite a few times.
As a creator and a punter, yeah, I've used it. Yeah.
So as a creator, you use it to kind of like, measure your stats on the back end while you're maybe not by your computer. But does anybody actually buy? So on the creator side of things, it's an interesting proposition.
Okay.
On the supporter backer side of things, I don't really know anyone that is using the app to make their purchases. Most people are still very comfortable and cool using the website and the mobile website, and that's been the case for us as well.
The experience is there's no intrinsic benefit from using the app over the. I have the app installed because obviously when you go to Backsank, the app fires off, but otherwise there's not really much in it. When I want to look at a campaign properly, I'll go on the desktop machine on the big screen and take a look at the details and read it through, which sometimes on the phone is a bit okay.
I suppose it's because I never spend that much time on a desktop that I could do that on.
Fair enough.
Maybe that's the reason I use it a lot.
Okay. I always just send campaigns home to like the desktop over to check it out fully on a phone, but I guess horses for courses, isn't it?
I mean, we're running a campaign at the moment, and it's really useful for me to check it every 15 minutes.
like the stock ticker. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not obsessive. It's when you get that report on a Monday. It says you've been on your phone for so many hours a day, and you think, "Oh Christ, I know what that is." Yeah.
Obviously, refreshing Kickstarter.
Yeah. But I mean, you've had some cracking people creators, and I know you messaged us with a couple that you got going on, and you hinted at a minute ago. But Jorge Molina's a big deal, man. That must be a great little land for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's been fantastic to work with. I mean, he mentioned on Twitter, he's like, I'm thinking about doing an art book. I think that might have been like his entire tweet, and that's all it took for me to swoop in and be like, hey man, we should probably talk. Like, and then sure enough, I mean, I was able to explain to him what it is that we do, and it all sounded good to him, and I mean, he funded the campaign within 5 hours. I mean, I think he's already sold out of like anything that has to do with original art on his campaign.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So now it's just about, continuing to spread the word and sell as many books as possible. But I mean, I think we're at 17, pushing $18,000 so far. The campaign just launched on Wednesday. We're talking now. It's a Sunday. So
nice. Yeah.
He's doing fantastic. We have another campaign that's coming up. When does this air, by the way?
Be tomorrow.
Okay, so this coming week, we have a campaign launching called Stardust the Super Wizard.
Stardust, I read about this. Yeah.
So this is a pretty cool thing. So Stardust is this character from the 30s who's now a public domain character, which is why they're able to do this.
Who's become a bit of a sort of indie underground comics darling, hasn't he, in a weird way?
Very much so. Yeah. So I mean, there have been some reprints through Fantagraphics in the past, but there is a cult following, specifically from, I mean, some really big name comic creators. So there is an anthology being put out, spearheaded by Van Jensen, who's written for DC and Valiant and done some indie stuff on his own as well. He's got, I mean, the roster of creators on this thing is everyone from the aforementioned Ron Marz. We have Francesco Francavilla. We have a cover and some interiors by Mike Allred, art by Pete Woods, Jesse Lonergan, Cecil Castellucci's in this book. And I know I'm forgetting so many other people, but I mean, Francesco Francavilla and Mike Allred, that's all I needed to hear. Like, bring those guys anywhere. So, I mean, the cover is gorgeous. You could see it if you go to zoop.gg in the coming soon section. So I'm really excited by this one. We have a nice amount of signups already, so I think that this one's going to do very well. I think there's going to be some cool signature opportunities, some cool sketches and original art, potentially some jam pieces. I think the opportunity to get drawn into the book. So keep your eyes on it.
He's a really interesting character. I know I work with an artist called Adam Falp, and he loves that character. He's always drawing him because he's got this sort of weird appeal now, isn't he? To me, he looks a bit like a sort of indie comics Miracle Man. I know he comes from before that sort of thing, but Miracle Man is sort of like what I think of when I see him as well. But well before that, I mean, like very, very much before that. But I think there's just something like strange and endearing about him that a lot of these creators have sort of gravitated towards. And when Van put out the call for like, hey, would anybody be interested in doing something like this? I mean, the Twitter responses were like never ending. So
I recall seeing that now. Yeah.
And so I think that there's going to be a really nice audience turning out for this one.
How did you jump on that one, Jordan? Were you from the inception? Did Van Jensen come to you and say, look, I've got this, or did it come to you, or did you go to them, or what's the sort of the dynamic of that one?
So I've known Van for a little bit. Because before Zoop, I had another company, another startup in the world of comics. It was called Comic Blitz, which was Oh, cool. Comic Blitz, and for those who don't, Comic Blitz was essentially Netflix for digital comics, or the Comixology Unlimited model, right? Subscription-based digital comics. We had deals with IDW. We had Aspen and Zenoscope and I'm trying to remember.
I'm going to say you had Marcosia, but I don't know if I'm confused.
We did, yes.
Yeah.
We had Marcosia as well. But we wound up selling the company 5 years ago. So the timing wasn't necessarily right, because I mean, right now, you take a look at like Global Comics or Omnibus. I think that they're really trying to step in to fill that void left by Comixology and whatever's going on over there.
Yeah, Vince was ranting on the messenger to us about that earlier.
Don't get me
yeah. I mean, those are things. Those are certainly things to check out. This is not an endorsement, because I don't know, really enough about them, but I just know that they're out there, trying to do something. But the point I was trying to make is, I mean, from Comic Blitz, I think I had met Van, and then when I'm actually trying to think about how this one happened. It might have been we had connected before he started talking about Stardust. He had another project that he was thinking about, and we were talking about that one. And then I think that kind of went away, or maybe it found a publisher or something like that. And then he came back. He's like, hey, actually, I'm thinking about doing this thing, and he explained Stardust to me. And then it was like, yeah, that sounds really awesome. And then when we started seeing the list of people who were like replying to wanting to be a part of it, I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is a no-brainer. But yeah, maybe I met Van almost 10 years ago now. So cool. Yeah, we've just known each other for a while. And that's kind of how it all started with some of the creators that we launched with. Like I've also known Ron Marz now almost 10 years, thanks to my other, thanks to Comic Blitz, basically. He and I were in touch regarding that, in 2013, 14, 15. So, some of those relationships just kind of like have maintained. And if I'm not working with the people that I did know back then, maybe they're giving a referral or talking up someone else. And I mean, one of our other first campaigns was a UK based guy by the name of Des Taylor. Yeah,
we know Des. Yeah, he does a lot of conventions. Yeah. Sort of cartoony style to his art, isn't there? Sort of glamorous women. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm a huge fan, and I just reached out cold on Instagram. But it turned out that he was going to print. He was just going to self-publish some stuff. And he's like, well, sure, I'll give this a try. And if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to go do what I was going to do anyway. So the timing, was like really fortuitous. And we did, I think, close to 20 grand. He was super happy. Nice. He did a bunch of sketches. I mean, his artwork is gorgeous. And what's cool is, I mean, because of that, like, I mean, I consider the guy a friend now. He's great. Cool. He's one of the nicest guys. So
I thought we might run through a couple of your projects, a couple of the upcoming and a couple of the already funded that we're in, that I found interesting. One of them I was going to mention, Jordan, was Comics for Ukraine, which was edited by Scott Dumbio, who's the IDW dude, isn't he? I think
he is. Yep.
How did that one come about?
Yeah, so my partner in this, so I'm one of the founders. I'm the CEO, but one of my co-founders and COO, his name is Eric Moss. And Eric used to be, I think I'm going to butcher his titles. So I'll just say he used to be an executive at IDW.
Right.
Okay.
And he worked with Scott. And when we started Zoop, not long after we launched, or I should say maybe even before we launched, John Paul Leone, the artist, fan. Yeah, he had passed away. And Scott...
You're doing the artist edition of Wintermen at the time, I think.
That's exactly what we did, yeah. So, Scott had all of the files, because that book was originally at Wildstorm. Scott was at Wildstorm before IDW as well. And when John Paul passed away, two of his best friends, studio mates, are Tommy Lee Edwards and Bernard Chang.
Yeah.
And between Tommy, Bernard, and Scott, they wanted to put out this book, to honor John Paul, raise some money for his family who he had left behind. And none of them knew how to crowdfund. None of them, really wanted to take on a project like this on their own. So Scott and Eric had connected because they knew one another, and that was the first project that we had done with Scott. So Scott brought that one our way because it went so well, and we did, I think, $175,000 on that one. And the process moved smoothly. Everybody enjoyed working together. Scott came back with Comics for Ukraine. So when the war in the Ukraine broke out, Scott wanted to do something, and he was, he put together the lineup. There's covers by Alex Ross, Bill Sienkiewicz, Art Adams, Dave Johnson. There's an interior painting that I saw. It hasn't been released yet, but I saw this painting by Joe Jusko, Jusko, with a quote about sunflowers. That's the flower of Ukraine, and I was like,
okay.
It takes a lot for me to like get emotional from something on a page,
Yeah.
But I was like, this is amazing. And then Astro City Story by Kurt Busiek and Brent Anderson, a Chew Story by John Layman, Rob Guillory, Jill Thompson, Walt Simonson,
fucking hell, Walt Simonson's a god. Yeah, I love that stuff.
Yeah. And Walt actually contributed an art piece to the Winterman Artist Edition as well. So he's been a part of a couple things with us. But yeah, so Scott came back, with that one, because he's like, all right, it went well the first time, let's do it again. And so Comics for Ukraine, again, this one was spearheaded by Scott. But then, again, we helped with all the marketing. We helped run the campaign, doing the campaign management. Scott has relationships with printers, but now we're also handling fulfillment on that as well. And I will say Scott's been great. He brought us some other campaigns as well. We just wrapped recently a campaign with Mark Nelson. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but
this is the Thunder Hunters one, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So he brought us Thunder Hunters. He brought us Glenn Bray. We did a book called Library. So Scott's been great about, singing our praises and funneling people our way. So
nice.
Yeah. And that happens a lot. I mean, he's a great example of that, but other people in the industry are, really starting to spread the word, because they know that what we do is a valuable resource to creators, and, they don't hate us too much, so we're getting some referrals.
There's always someone to hate you in comics, isn't there? There's always someone for some reason.
Look, we look in this environment, today we have our fair share of naysayers and
us too, man. That's how it is.
And it's like, our method is really just like shut out the noise. Yeah. Otherwise, you just kind of drown in it, because realistically, we're focused. Yeah, we're focused on creating something. I really don't have time to hear about like someone saying like, I don't like the P in your logo. Like, you guys should die for that. It's like, all right, dude. Like,
yeah.
I'll P in your logo.
Yeah.
Hey. Speaking sort of bottom line, the creators must enjoy working with you, because we hear some terrible stories about 4%, 5% royalty rights. I'm guessing financially it's got to be better for these guys, isn't it?
Well, what do you mean by 4%, 5%?
Well, we hear about certain publishers who give a creator 4% royalty rights.
Oh,
they get
yeah. So I mean, the way that the model works with Kickstarter, with crowdfunding, I should say, I did it. It really flips things on its head. Like, without that publisher, the lion's share of the profit is going back to the creator. If someone wanted to run a campaign on Zoop, our pricing is similar to Kickstarter. If we start adding services, we're going to take a larger percentage, but we take no ownership. So someone can run a campaign on Zoop and then go sell that, property to a film studio or something like that, and they don't have we're not on the cap table. We're not, we don't have a
foreign
piece
rights.
Of ownership. And look, we're simply getting paid for our services. But again, when these creators' bandwidths are so spent already, just hitting deadlines and doing their freelance work, we've very rarely had pushback on
Oh man, I can think of a handful, 5 or 6 pro creators who've gone on Kickstarter and utterly failed at it. Who would have succeeded had they come to you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because they just stall at a certain hurdle, don't they? Sometimes these guys.
Yeah,
it is mostly guys I'm thinking of.
Yes. And especially if it's your first time out. Like I said earlier, I think that there's a misconception that just because you put it out there means it's going to succeed. You really do have to.
Everyone hears about the successful stories, don't they? Like, oh, I funded it on Kickstarter, it'd be easy. But it's crowdfunding's a full-time sort of thing in itself, isn't it? To concentrate on.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and that's where we come in, to help. But I think that, this is pro tip right here is, the biggest thing is the promotion that you need to do before the campaign starts. And I think a lot of people forget about that, is you have to build that fan base, cultivate that fan base, get them kind of like worked up and excited about your project that's coming out. So I think a lot of people forget about that. I think that
we talk about that a lot though, Vince. Don't we? We say, like, people say to us, "Oh, how did you sell all those comics?" And we say, "Well, because we've had a podcast for fucking 8 years." That's how. Yeah.
But with that in mind, in terms of the promotion leading up to a campaign, just across the board, how much is too much? Because obviously sometimes creators maybe think, I don't want to show too much of this because it's my baby and I don't want to give away spoilers, but if you don't show them, people don't know. So what's your advice to show? Because with comics you need to see, the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? You need to see pages, you need to see artwork, you need to see things rather than just a promise. But how much do you think is a good amount to sort of show people before a campaign starts?
So, I mean, if you take a look at Nick Pitarra or if you take a look at Jason Copeland, the answer is there's never too much. And the proof is in the pudding because they're two of the most successful campaigns we've ever done. So, and we look to those as the examples. Like Nick, was putting out, and you don't have to do spoilers. You could do, a panel. You could do a portion of a panel. You don't have to give whole pages. You don't have to give story. You could be in control of what it is that you're putting out there, but I think the most important thing is to continue to put things out there. I think a lot of creators don't want to feel like a salesman. They don't want to feel like they're bothering people. They don't want to feel like they're shilling their stuff.
True.
But like before the comics industry, I was in the music industry. And I was a freelancer. I was a musician. So a lot of parallels, a lot of similarities to the creators where you're trading on your reputation. It's all about the work that you've done most previously is going to help get you the next job, all of that. But it's about networking. And the thing that I would tell other musicians all the time is like, look, man, you could be the greatest musician in the world, but if you don't get out of your basement, nobody's ever going to know it. Yeah. And it's the same. It's the same thing with comics. If you're not telling people about it, why would you? And they, if they don't find out about it, why would you expect that they're just going to pay for it?
Yeah.
And especially like we're selling comics to the world now, so so you've got to factor in time zones. You may have told someone in the you may have put your social media post or something in the morning and think you've done for the day, but America or the world hasn't woken up until 8 hours later, so you're gonna
we get that with this feed, don't we? We get that. We put something out about sort of 1 p.m. we get our US listeners. That's how it works. It's all right when we put it out. We advertise the podcast like 8 o'clock when people are on the train going into work. That's fine for the UK, but everyone's asleep elsewhere. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is like you guys even said you didn't know that Resolution came out from Ron Marz, until after the fact. And look, they promoted it. They did a fine job of tapping into their social media. But I'm a firm believer that there's never too much. If you're running a campaign and it's 30 days out of the next couple of years, give it everything you got during the campaign and leading up to the campaign. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. Ask for forgiveness rather than permission from people, right?
Because we've said, haven't we, like the amount of time a social media post is like live and active is ridiculously short.
Small window, isn't it? Yeah.
You could post every half hour and it still gets lost.
I suppose the big elephant in the room at the moment, is the sort of splintering and diversification of of social media and the internet itself. Since we've had stuff like Elon and we've had the Cambridge Analytica stuff, and we've had the rise of albeit for a short time, of places like Parler. We've had like Mastodon suddenly arrive and Hive and all these sort of places. You have to spread yourself a bit thinner these days as well, don't you? I mean, a lot of people have, quite rightly so, just ignore their Twitter. We heard that quote recently from Mark Miller, who said that only 10% of comic fans have a Twitter account and only 5% of them read it. So, you kind of have to. Is there anywhere else that you're finding is an advantage to post stuff?
We've been pretty fortunate with there's certain Facebook groups. Specifically that you could post in that. Yeah. If it's something having to do with that interest, like for example, we did a campaign with Dan Panosian, incredible artist. He did an art book, and he had, I think, a piece of original art for sale. It was Conan the Barbarian. So
Right.
boom, we hit up all the Conan the Barbarian fan pages.
Nice.
Yeah. Another great example is the current campaign for Jorge Molina. I hit up the original art collector pages, and I was like, hey, there's only like three sketch opportunities left,
Nice.
because it had gone so well. And then I saw the feedback on the page where I posted, and it was like, got one. And then another guy's like, I was too late. And I'm like, we could have sold more, but
It's nice to see that, Manny. I like that. I was also thinking about the sort of foreign, we often, we're very insular, aren't we, around comics to a certain extent. We see the UK comic scene and we see the US comic scene, but having like now done business and been to Angoulême, for example, and places in Italy and stuff, do you reach out to these? I would say with an art book, it's got to be applicable, is it, to say that crowd?
Well, it's interesting. So, internationally right now, we have 2 campaigns that are up. If I may be so bold, if you're on our page,
please do, man. Yeah.
You see one called Murder Fucker.
Yeah, man.
All right, Vince.
This is from an Italian artist, Marco Fontanilli.
Looks awesome.
Yeah. We like it. We like him. It might not be something for everybody, but it's going to be a campaign that gets funded. I think we're at like 85 or 90% funded. So with a few days left, those last couple of days, I think we'll get that one over the hump. We have a campaign from the Netherlands that's live right now as well, called 5,500 Miles of Comics. And that launched this week too. We're over like 50, 55, maybe 60% funded in the first week. So, let's see. Luciano Vecchio is an artist. I think he's from Argentina. Look, Jorge is from Mexico. Jorge Molina. So, in terms of international, we have that. We did a campaign with Brian Talbot. Cool. From the UK. I think we were talking about Claire Napier earlier as well. Also from the UK. Paul Cornell, another one from the UK. We did a Saucer Country omnibus with him.
Oh, it was you guys who put that out, was it? Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing. Like, one of the big things that I, when I'm like kind of pitching us to other creators, is like, oh, well, we did the John Paul Leon Winterman Artist Edition, and so someone's like, oh, that's you guys. I supported that. Oh, cool. Now I know who you are. So
yeah, because Saucer Country was Vertigo to start with, and then did it go to IDW or something? I think for a while, and it sort of jumped about a bit.
Was it Image?
It did.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I don't think it was ever an Image. It was Vertigo, then IDW, and now they just put out like the final issue through us along with the omnibus. So that way you could, if you collected all the single issues, you were able to get that last issue. And if you wanted the whole complete story, we have a soft cover omnibus, 400 something pages. So,
cool. Oh, great idea. Yeah, just to cover a couple more books that I know we've got you for another 10 minutes here, but one of the ones that are coming up soon, I noticed you've got a book. Is it 1000 by Sanford Green? He's a great creator, isn't he? Love his stuff. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of Sanford Green's art. Bitterroot. I really only read like the first arc, but the art in that is just so fantastic.
Very different, isn't it? Fresh feeling. Yeah.
And so this one, it's been on the Coming Soon page for quite a while. Again, going back to that editorial conversation. But yeah, 1000, this was a webcomic that he did, I think, a few years ago. It's never been in print. It's never been in print, and this is through Rocket Ship Entertainment. And Rocket Ship does a lot of stuff through Kickstarter. And a lot of webtoon stuff. I think they have, was it Let's Play, I believe, is like one of the top, maybe like top 25 or something like that Kickstarters. And that's through Rocket Ship.
Right.
So this one's like in partnership with Rocket Ship. But yeah, Sanford Green, it's his book, I believe, written and completely drawn. There's going to be a new cover for the print edition. And yeah, just things get in the way, but this is what I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, nice one. Cool. And the other one I was going to say is you've run a couple of campaigns with Benjamin Morse now, the Scarlet Twilight, which I saw come up, and also, is it Coming Soon Purgatory Underground? Is that right?
So, well, Purgatory Underground, I think, is the subtitle to the book of a character called August.
Okay.
So
cool.
yeah. So yes. So Ben ran, I think, three. I want to say three successful Kickstarters. But he found, that whole printing and fulfillment was taking time away from him creating new stuff.
Right.
So, and he's like, I want to keep doing more. And he found that our services are going to allow him to speed up his timelines for creating new stuff. So we got issue number 4 plus the hardcover for Scarlet Twilight. That's the campaign that we just ran, and that may have been his top grossing campaign out of all the 4 campaigns that he's done so far.
Nice.
And he enjoyed working with us. I mean, we're still in the printing and fulfillment phase of that one, but he had a bunch of podcasts that he was doing. He's like, you know what, I'd really like I'm going to do August with you guys. I'd really just love to get it up there because I'm going to be doing a bunch of interviews and I want to have a place to point people. So right. we don't necessarily have like a launch date for August at this point, but yes. Ben's a great example of like, hey, he crushed it with his last campaign and now he's coming back to do some more.
That's good for you guys as well. He trusts you to sort it out. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
And
and we work great together, and he's got a great fan base built in, so it's a no-brainer for everybody.
Yeah. And the big question, which I'm sure so a lot of our listeners and a lot of the Slack members are creators themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the big question that they've been waiting this whole interview for me to one of us to ask is, do you take submissions and how do they contact you?
Absolutely. The easiest thing to do is email us at hello@wearezoop.com.
Right.
The other thing is you can go to zoop.gg, and on the top of the website, on the header, there's a link that says submit your project.
Okay. So it's not like Kickstarter where everyone gets through. There's a curation system, I'm guessing, that you do, is there, or a contact back system, or?
Yeah, there is. And the reason for that is we're still hands-on with every single campaign. So when you come to Zoop, whether we're providing the full services or not, we're still going to be putting together the campaigns. We're still going to be giving you a level of support. We're still going to be giving you a shipping calculator. We're still going to be handling pledge management, which for those who are unfamiliar is sort of at the end of the campaign. When we have to track down people for address changes or failed credit card charges and things like that, we still handle all of that. And the other thing I should actually mention is we collect all of the shipping information and credit card charges during the campaign.
Okay.
And why that's interesting is there's no need for surveys. There's no need for trying to chase people down after the fact, or you as a backer maybe missing the email for your survey, or like seeing it and then being like, I'll get to that later, and then never getting back to it. And then all of a sudden now there's this added friction to you getting your product. So we've kind of streamlined that. Again, it's all during the campaign. So, and because we're handling pledge management, it just makes it that much easier for creators, to get all of the information that they need to collect the shipping information and credit card information that they need. And as a backer, I know I'm not the only one that gets pissed off after I spend X amount of dollars on a book, and then I get an email like a month or two later, like, hey, if you want that book that you just, spent $50 on, like, I need another $10 for shipping. And it's like, dude. So we just think that this is way more transparent, streamlined, and efficient for creators and backers just by doing it during the main campaign.
It's also got to work for you as well, because like you say, you're handling all of these things, and to some creators that may be listening, they'll be like, oh great, someone's going to do all the work for me. But surely for you, I mean, what's like the minimum you ask of a creator who's going to sign up for this? Because it's not like they're just going to be like, here's my book, do everything for me. They've got to put in the work as well, haven't they, really?
Yeah, well, there's, like I said, there's the two different models, right? There's the sort of, standard basic model, and then there's the full services model. Most of the time, the full service model is we're going to be going out and kind of like selling our services to creators. Sometimes someone will come our way and we'll be like, yeah, like we should do full service for you. The one thing that we're going to ask everybody who submits or, kind of like solicits and says like, hey, I have a project, I'd like to talk to you guys about it, is what we touched on earlier, is you still have to promote. You still have to tap into that fan base. We're going to ask you, do you have an email list? because for those listening, email is your number one tool when it comes to crowdfunding. If you don't have an email list, perhaps you should think about waiting on your campaign, because you want to give yourself the greatest chance of success that you can have.
Yeah.
And email has been proven over and over again to be the best tool in your arsenal for a successful crowdfunding campaign. Right. So those are some of the things that, like, you can submit to Kickstarter and you're not going to have a human being to talk to. You're not going to have anybody to ask questions to, share any sort of strategy, advice, or, any support whatsoever. So, some people might get a little turned off if we're like, hey, what's your email list situation like? Oh, you don't have one? You should probably start one. Or do you have social media? And if the answer is no, it's like, well, guys, like, how are you thinking you're going to sell this? Because you're, as the creator, ultimately responsible, but for bringing the crowd to crowdfunding. So just everyone needs to remember that piece of it. Yeah, we are not responsible for, ensuring your success. But like I said earlier, we could add icing to the cake that you bring.
What's a bit of advice or a learning that you've had for some campaigns that have been wildly successful? Now, I say that thinking of like Kickstarters where someone's had a Kickstarter campaign and it's funded beyond their wildest dreams, so much so that they don't know how to handle putting it out. I mean, it happens.
I don't understand that feeling.
Well, the first thing I would say is, if you know those people, send them my way, because I'd love to talk to them. But then the second thing is, be able to actually produce what you say that you're going to produce. If you're saying that you're going to do, 100 remarks, make sure you have time and the ability to do 100 remarks. If you're going to do, sketches or provide a Zoom meeting with people, like, make sure that you actually like fulfill on what people are paying for. I mean, yes, you also actually have to produce the book and the main product, but I think it's just knowing ahead of time and setting yourself up for success in terms of like, hey, this is what I want to offer, and make sure that you can actually, follow through on what that offering is. And get creative. I think that a lot of times you kind of want to potentially do something that if there's something that can only be done on your campaign because of who you are, because of something related to the story, try to find like that interesting hook, that interesting angle. Like with Axe Wielder John, for example. I mean, we did a run of 100 little muscle men. Do you remember those muscle men?
Yeah, the great, the fleshy orangey kind of ones.
Yeah, exactly. So that was like something cool and unique to that campaign that we were able to do. And I'm not gonna lie, there were conversations about like, can we sell axes? Can we get like some custom sort of etched, handled axes? And I mean that ultimately wound up not happening. But same with Dan Panosian. He wanted to do sort of these like little pocket knives, because his brand is urban barbarian. Yeah. And he wanted to have like his logo on these pocket knives. And sort of like, you ever see those books? Maybe it's like a Lego book where from like DK, and like you have the book, but then the cover is sort of like an inch or two thick because there's like there's a figure, and they needed to make space for that figure. So he's like, he wanted to have something like that, except with a knife inside. I'm like, I don't know if we can...
Oh man, this is great. We did a comic where a woman, like a lady prostitute in the sort of post-apocalyptic world, has knives in dildos. I think I think that's a different market, Tony.
There's a market for that, though.
No joke. We were very far down the line with one of our projects, which I'll tell you offline, about potentially selling dildos as well.
There you go.
This is what we'll get you on for. This is a
good because we thought like, all right, we're going to get a little bit of traction. At least turn some heads and have people talking about this, even if nobody buys it. It's still maybe a little buzzworthy. So
I think the thing for me, the main thing, Jordan, here is you and I and all of us, we speak on the email a lot, because we sort of come into each other's radar in the last sort of year or so. And the thing that comes across is the enthusiasm you have for the projects. That's the thing, as far as I'm concerned. That's what sells me most on your projects, is the fact that you're a fan and you're excited by these projects. I remember when you messaged me about the Molina book. You're like, "Fucking hell, we've got a Molina. This is great. This is amazing." It's like that.
Yeah. I very much appreciate that. As someone who, I'm a lifelong comics fan. This is everything from when I was 4 and 5 years old reading Archies to early 90s with Image and Valiant and I mean, I could spend an entire hour talking about the New Warriors with you, because that's my jam. But I can't draw, I can't write. This is sort of like my contribution to the world of comics. So it's what I can do, and there's a thrill, there's a sense of pride. I have a bookshelf filled with projects that wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for Zoop. And I'm incredibly proud of that, and I haven't lost that luster yet, so I'm better that it still comes through.
Great stuff.
Well, I mean, long may it continue.
Definitely,
Thank you, guys.
Especially all the upcoming books just looks amazing. I'm already poised to pledge on. Seriously, Murderfucker is getting.
Mate, I'm going straight. As soon as we finish, I'm going straight.
It was like death metal and Evil Dead, and yes, right, let's go.
And fucking.
But in all seriousness, it's fantastic titles, and you're doing good work. So if people want to find out more about, I mean, we've learned so much already, but it's always nice for people to learn it for themselves. So where do they go to find out more?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. So the website is zoop.gg. We're not zoop.com. That was already taken by some tax company out of Brazil or something like that. But we are zoop.gg. That's the main website. We're on, I think, every social media platform at We Are Zoop. And then you could email us at hello@wearezoop.com.
Nice.
Yeah, we try our best to get back to everybody in a timely manner, especially, regarding submissions. I mean, hit us up on any social media, that email address. And if you're looking to run a campaign, please feel free to reach out.
I'm sure you'll have one or two.
Yeah, I think you'll have some. Yeah, I'll guarantee it.
Yeah. But no, we're looking forward to more of the books, Jordan. And thank you so much for popping on and talking to us.
This has been great, man. Absolutely.
Cheers, dude. Yeah.
Very much appreciated. Thank you for asking me to be on.
And there you have it, folks. Knowledge.
That's a cracker.
We just dropped a whole load of knowledge on you about something you didn't know before. That's what we like to do on this show.
I think Jordan might better get some more gig storage on his email.
Yeah. And he's a big New Warriors fan, so shout out.
Yeah, we like that.
Yeah. Shout out to all you New Warriors fans out there, because we are as well. We might have him back on the show just to talk about New Warriors.
We're talking about favorite heroes when I was growing up. Night Thrasher, even though I'm not mad on name, I fucking love that character.
That was a good solo series, as well, Yeah,
I really liked Nova. I know Nova became a huge big thing in the Galactic Marvel universe, but the New Warriors Nova around that time, fucking loved it. Yeah, although when I got a collection, when you see the first appearance of them, his costume's sort of like, is it like a brownish and goldish sort of colour?
In the New Warriors, it was. Before that, though, it wasn't, was it? When he first started, yeah.
Yeah, I like the blue and gold kind of.
Yeah, I do as well. There was like a little core of them as well, and you could tell what powers they had. Yeah, as a cracking character he was. Yeah. Still going. Yeah.
As is this show, and the show must go on. But thank you very much to Jordan and the Zoop guys for joining us this week, amidst all the palaver sorting it out. But no, there wasn't any palaver at all.
He was a gent. Yeah,
he was an absolute gent. So. Don't be surprised if you hear us talk about more Zoop.
Yeah, more Zoop.
I mean, in all seriousness, just look at the website, and the books speak for themselves, as they always should. The books are always the ones that should speak for themselves. And I've already looked at a couple and thought, oh,
yeah. Well, I'm going to definitely back in that. What was that, Murderfucker?
Murderfucker, yeah.
Murderfucker, yeah.
I mean, that name sells itself.
Yeah, that's a tattoo I've got already.
Have you seen the art on it?
No, I haven't looked at it yet. No, I'm just done on the name.
I think the art will be right up your street, Tony. But it's got
cool. Nice.
Proper sort of heavy metal and monsters sort of vibe. So cool.
Oh, nice.
So you're looking through that whole stuff. When you can get it and just add stuff on by clicking the tick button, that's great. Rather than the Kickstarter model where you back the certain level and then you can stick stuff on afterwards. It's always a bit like, this seems overly complicated. Like, The one on Zoop is a lot more kind of intuitive.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cool.
So hopefully that we'll get more fantastic comics, which is what this show's all about. Fantastic comics, events, and more. And sometimes we like to shout out about such things. Speaking of which, gents, do we have any shout outs this week?
Hold your breath. So I've got a few.
Oh God, do I need to hold my
breath? Yeah, please do. You'll die though. Right. First up, thanks to everyone who backed Dirty Basement 1 and 2. It's fully funded now, but we're carrying on. It's what we're doing on this is it's a share of the money between the creators. So there's no massive stretch goals or anything like that. The money that is accrued post printing and postage will be spread out. I'm not getting it. Will be spread out amongst the artists on this because let's face it, they're the people who do the work. So that's how we're working it. So I think we're doing all right, but we could do with a couple more. We'd love you to come and have it. It's funny and it's fun. So come and have a look at that. Thanks to Dead Good Media, who we spoke about last week with its Octobriana issue. I mentioned in the review that I hadn't, I'd missed the previous Octobriana with Love, and they've kindly sent through a digital copy to us, and it's also getting a second print, so it should be in comic shops this week as well. So that's good timing. So have a look out for Octobriana with Love. Big shout out to Simon and everyone who took part in the Madeleine Kickstarter and the book of little essays, sort of remembrances of comics past. Simon has sent through £411.19 to the Alzheimer's Society. So that's great. That's well done. Well done, everyone.
Can we use that to offset our tax? I'll speak to Simon about that later.
Big congratulations to Gustavo, the man that we have been shouting about is 5 minutes from being picked up by the comic industry. He's working on an X-Men gig. So big fucking nice work, man. About fucking time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When you said Thought Bubble, like you should get an original piece of art, and you guys did.
Yeah.
Boom.
I got 4 pieces of Gustavo. They're all going in the safe, ready for selling in about 5 years' time. Drexler issue 3 from our buddy Nathan Kelly. Top dude, one of my favourite people. I met him when I was down in Charlotte. We had a fucking giggle. Issue 4 it's got a landing page at the moment, and it's coming to Kickstarter soon. Absolutely brilliant series. I know you trumpeted it from the start, didn't you, V? You found it early on.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, really, really like his stuff. I'm guessing, and I know Nathan's a pro. I'm guessing it'll have the first 3 issues as well as catch up tiers. So get on that. Get on it now. Sign up also on Kickstarter to be notified for the launch of Bette Noir issues 1 to 5. Andrew Clemson, one of our valued Slack members, is releasing that. Can't wait to see it. The art's by Chris Wantowai. Okay.
Battle great covers on those books as well.
Yeah, Andrew knows what he's doing, doesn't he? Yeah, and also a great guest on here.
Yeah.
Battle Creek Ragnarok got sent through, issues 1 and 2 got sent through to us on the review thing we've had. I'm going to give it a shout out here rather than a full review because it's currently funding on Kickstarter and doing pretty well, I think. It's a space Viking comic that just looks brilliant. It's proper punk as fuck. It's funding for the second issue, but you can obviously sensibly get the first issue as part of it as well. I've seen the whole issue, and it's got like that sort of punk aesthetic thing. I'm gonna say it's written by Adrian Lippert and art by Al Goyo. It reminds me of something that maybe Jim Marfood or Matt Harrower.
Okay,
it's got that sort of feel to it. Maybe Stefan Cardacelli, who I'm a big fan of on Instagram. Go and have a look at that one. Just a couple more guys. Battle Panda 1 and 2 is on Kickstarter from our buddy Farhan Qureshi. Go back. It's got 7 days to go, and you can experience Kai and his band of misfits as they take on the forces of the monster. That's a cracking one. Also, another Slack member. So you're going to get a shout out. If you're on the Slack and you've got a book out, you're going to get a shout out. ComicScene magazine is also coming to Kickstarter. You can sign up for the launch page for that. Quick one. My last one is my copy of Private American by Mike Barron, and with a fucking gorgeous Steve Rude cover, landed at Casa Resmond this week. I'm going to read it this week. And what I've looked at it, I've just started reading it. That's how you do vigilante comics. Mike knows what he's doing. Sign up to Mike on Substack and you get quite a lot of sort of writing advice. Yeah, they're my ones, guys.
Vigilante comics seem like such a go-to for like everyone can relate to these characters. Like, it's just someone taking the law into their own hands because their justice isn't being done for whatever. And like,
I mean, call me bloodthirsty if you want, but someone slitting the throat of a rapist in the first 4 pages, I'm fucking down for the rest of the issue, my friend. I've got to tell you. Yeah. So
this is the hell of an issue of the Beano.
Yeah. Bunty's taking a change.
The Bunty Christmas annual. Right, mate, this is going somewhere. Right, I've got Kickstarter shout. No Escape from Vida Futura. Sarah Miles, project creator. Heaven is a prison with a psychotic angel as guards. Isabella is dead. she has a plan for that. That's ready. He's got the launch page on Kickstarter ready to go on that one. The last time for this year I'm going to be talking about this and giving this a shout out at least. Lawless Comic Con, 27th, 28th of May. So that's next weekend. The weekend coming if you listen to this on the Monday. Got a whole host of guests. It's the Double Tree by Hilton Hotel, Bristol. Tickets are now on sale. I'd recommend buying before you turn up. I'm not sure if you can get them on door. I'd have to check on that.
Yeah, I think sometimes you can't. I think they often sell out, I think, of that one, don't they?
Yeah, so if you want to go, make sure you get your ticket ASAP. And people keep saying to me, Dan, when are you going to do the next ACP Boss of the Week? And I'm going to answer them right now. It's Sean Gordon Murphy. He's done like a list of tips on how to interact with readers and fans in general. I think there's about half a dozen tips. And they're worth reading. And yes. I think the thing is, about maybe when we first started the podcast, maybe 6-7 years ago, we got like a list, like the usual creators who like gave fans a list of how they should behave to them. And I remember we talked about it at the time and said this is how the creators should talk to the fans as well. Let's not be fucking weird about this. Yeah, and I just I won't say, but off mic, I recounted to you a story about how a creator was fucking super rude to me. Yeah. No reason whatsoever. So I think it's a great one, and it's nice that he's put that in there. I like. There's little tips
that
you said, like if someone comes up to your table and like, I want to buy this comic, but man, I don't really have a great load of money. You say, well, all right, once I stick in a sketch, once I do X, Y, and Z, just like a little thing, just to help them push them over the line and get that sale. It's a nice little bits of advice about that, and also about talking
eye
to
contact,
readers.
Friendliness, this sort of thing. Yeah.
So you can probably find it online, but we've got it posted up in the ACP Slack. If you want to join that, just get in touch with us, and we give you the link in.
Cool.
Boom.
Nice.
And that's it for the shout-outs.
Well, I've got one shout-out. I'm not going to say the name of them. I will tell the hosts afterwards. Not that they're going to listen to this, but I discovered someone on eBay that was. I've been on a bit of a buying back issues of old Eagle comics to fill some of the gaps in my Stormforce collection, and I found a person on eBay that I managed to pick out numbers. They're all individually listed, but I gave them a message and said, actually, can
I like it when you can
save the postage and stuff. They're like, yeah, just bid on the ones you want. And it was brilliant. I got them through in really good condition. I don't often buy too much in terms of comics on eBay, but it was such a...
Man, I wish I didn't.
yeah. Well, the thing is, I'm going to send you some links for this guy. But
nice work, man.
Have you... how's the Stormforce Mega Collection?
Yeah.
Kind of come along?
I've got now. I think I've got all of 1988.
He's such a nerd.
All of 1988, which is fascinating, is because they weren't always in Eagle. I think they joined Eagle around February. I need to look at the issues. So then it was Eagle with Battle, and then but later on it becomes Eagle with Mask. And because Eagle just started buying. They were sort of merging all of these titles with Eagle over time, wasn't it? So it's also sort of seeing these things is fascinating. Seeing that and seeing what Dan Dare's like at that time as well.
Shout out Barry Tomlinson.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Don.
You're going to make yourself a kind of like a mega scanning the artwork.
I've started thinking about that again. A book just for me that will never be
personal
published.
Reasons only.
For personal reasons.
Lawyers stand down.
Yes. I'm just going to scan them in and sort of make a one-off book just so I can read it to myself without having to pull the issues out of all of the,
Didn't you say something about putting it on a disc and flogging it on eBay? No, that was offline.
I never
did.
Offline
talk.
I never did.
Wait a minute, where is this? 2003.
Yeah.
That's what you do. I bought one of those discs off eBay, and it turns up, and they've like printed out like the disc label and the cover.
Yeah, I've seen them.
It feels like 90s, man.
Oh dear! But shout out to all those wonderful eBay comic sellers who are doing good stuff and selling comics in good condition as well.
Yeah, man.
Which is always nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
I bought a DVD off eBay this week. I bought one recommended to me by Dan.
Yeah, it was an art film, wasn't it?
Yeah, Emmanuel in London.
Yeah,
it's Soho. Well, I saw it.
Emmanuel in Soho. Sorry, yeah.
There's
you get it right, Tony.
Some Facebook group. We talked about Facebook groups earlier, but it like deals with like trash cinema. And someone posted up like, "Oh look, there's these glorious shots of Soho," in the 1970s in this film, and I was like, "Oh, T, mate, you fucking."
To be fair, that's the best bit of it. Yeah, it looks like Cockney Kung Fu bits of it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like Cockney Kung Fu. So I was trying to search through because I'm sure someone would have done an art book of photography of that area at that time, but I was coming up empty-handed.
There must be somebody, mustn't there?
Must be.
Yeah. Hopefully not with me in it.
We usually was up in one of the rooms, weren't you, T? So,
that's true. I was busy.
Speaking of being busy, it's time to recommend some comics to you lovely people. So, Tony, I believe you got a couple.
Yeah.
So you want to top and tail us?
Yeah, baby. The first off, it's going to be quite a short one because it's not released until July. But Swan Songs issue 1, I got sent it through by the artist, who I'll mention in a second. Easily my favourite book this year.
Wow.
Saying that, putting it out there, my favourite read this year for a number of reasons, some which I won't spoil and some which I might mention. Written by W. Maxwell Prince, writer The Brilliant, The Ice Cream Man. Reading this prompted me to convert my digital copies of that series into a hardback, which I've ordered. He also did Art Brew, which we talked about as well. I think we talked about Ice Cream Man when Sarah was on, but Art Brew, I think, was maybe 4 months ago I recommended. Art, colour and cover by the mighty Eisner-nominated Martin Simmons, who sent it through to me. This is outstanding. I was chatting to him online. He'll be at MCM next weekend, so pop down and see him. And it's his first completely hand painted book. He just did a couple of tweaks post scanning. It's a weird thing to say, but genuinely a work of art, I think. Wait till you see it. There's no way that AI can match this sort of thing, this interpretation. No. You know. Letters by Good Old Neon. There's a cover by Nimit Malvia and another cover by Marazzo, who's worked on Ice Cream Man and O'Halloran. It's out of image. It's got a different. So it's a story. It's all written by Prince, but it has a different artist on each issue, and it's a different story, as I understand it, per issue. I sent the cover through to you guys, and I posted it on the Slack. One of my favourite covers as well this year. It's class Martin cover, and it tells a story, which the story beats aren't revealed until you get into the issue. So if you look at the cover, there's certain things going on in the cover, and you then discover that they come out in the story. Very good. So it's a series of stories about endings, is what the image site tells you about. And this first story is a story about a world that is on the brink of destruction, and the doomsday clock is ticking down to its final few minutes. Brian, who's this kid, he's sitting in a hospital reading, believe it or not, a gardening magazine to his mum, who's dying, and sort of plugged in. Not only is she dying in the hospital, but outside the world has gone to fucking absolute shite. And you realise that the only thing that's helping her is him talking to her and reading this gardening magazine. She just likes gardening. And then he realises that there's another issue, and that's where the story takes off. And I won't ruin any more of it, but he maybe has to go and fight his way through the city to try and find this magazine. It's the most lovely idea, you know, but what happens is it's not your classic zombie apocalypse. What Prince very cleverly does, he combines this sort of subtle subtextual commentary on the current world by showing it as going to shit and all these freaks out in the streets. So you get these characters who are called emotional vampires. There's an element of just, you know, unbelievable self-obsession about people who are about to die. One bloke says he's going to set fire to himself so that people can see him. And immediately, as soon as I read that, I thought, that's just a commentary on modern society. Do you know what I mean? Really, really good. There's a staircase scene. Brilliant. Amazing. And the last page, I can't say what it's about. Fucking, it'll blow your mind. I remember getting to it, and it's like lump in the throat time when I saw that final page. I thought, oh my God, so good. You'll like this, V. Upcoming artists on the series include Casper Wingard as well.
Nice.
Yeah, and Philippe Andrade. There are a couple more that Martin's told me I can't say, but this is going to be, get on this. Go in your shop and pre-order this series. Swan Songs, out of image, out in July. This is going to be, if the Eisners had to have any kind of credibility left, this will be on them next year, I guarantee. Yeah, brilliant. Best thing I've read this year, easily. Swan Songs. There you go.
Nice.
The first one, guys.
Damn,
nice. Well, I've got a couple of titles, actually. I did read one of the books that was sent in last week. for a review. I've actually had some while we were thinking. I was kind of my brain was talking. My brain's kicked into action about our review process, and I'll talk to you guys about that after the show because I've got an idea how we can structure that. But I did check out Bigger by Mike Armstrong. You mentioned that, didn't you, V?
Yeah.
With the love that. I read that through. Lots of fun. I didn't realize there's no text, no speech bubbles for the entirety of it. So the author Mike Armstrong kind of communicates just all through the panels and through the artwork and
it's
character
emotion
gestures
as well, isn't it? It's what you're conveying through emotion, especially in like a cartoonish sort of animated style. It's quite interesting.
8 pages and there's quite a lot of punch in that just from that. So might want to watch out for him on Twitter at Mike_Armstrong. Other comics I've been reading this week. You know, we set ourselves the target of reading through some books for a certain time.
Oh, I've started mine. Yeah, have you as well?
I've started mine. Yeah, I'm 3 trades into The Walking Dead.
Oh, nice.
Which I did this week. It just fucking flies by. I'm just reading. Oh, there's another one. Oh, that's another one done. And they're a lot of fun.
What did you get that on a Humble Bundle? Is that what happened?
Yeah. And then stuck it on like the Google Drive and then just download a trade.
It's part of the magic of that series, man. It really is. It's one of those things that at first you're like, oh, how am I going to get into? And before you know it, you're into it. And it's just moving.
Especially when you hit the Adlard stuff because it's consistent, isn't it? You get that little change up after the first trade. But
so fuck me, I'm like, I'm just starting the prison arc when they go into the prison.
Oh, you've got a big moment coming.
Yeah.
And
so I was like, oh, this is great.
You got what I think people often describe it as the moment of that early part of the series as well. Wait till you see.
Nice. Yeah. Looking forward to it. And I also finished off Nemesis Reloaded. Which
me too, man.
No spoilers at the ending.
Yeah.
No spoilers at the ending, but I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you got to get on that and read that.
We won't ruin it. I know he's put it online, but fucking hell. Talk about a long plan.
Yeah, I bought those last 2 issues to sort of have a little binge night.
Yeah.
This upcoming week.
Oh, we won't spoil it, man.
So it sort of ends, and then it sort of like you get like a like the end of credits, mid credit scene.
Yeah.
Like, there's some more, and then fucking hell, it hints at something. Yeah, it won't spoil it, but
there's also a moment. You know that Miller owns the Superman cape from Reeves.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That I think he might have donated it to a museum or something, but I think he does own it. And I think there's a moment that you'll see as well around that.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah. Cool.
Interesting. Yeah, so like if you're sleeping on the Miller stuff, I've got to get back onto the Ambassadors. I've missed an issue or 2 of that.
Yeah.
So
I've got a couple of Fight Club to catch up on, I think.
But, I've not even started Fight Club, so I've got
Magic Order's fucking superb.
Again, I've not started that either. So
very good. Dude's putting out so many books.
Fucking great books as well.
They just announced his American Jesus series, didn't they? On Netflix.
Boom. Yeah, great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Vista?
Yes, my one is a book from a Dark Horse called Survival. This is issue 1. This is written by Sean Lewis, illustrated by Brendan Everett, colour art by Natalie Barahona with Brendan Everett, letters by Ed Dukeshire, which is a name I've seen a few times. Actually.
Yeah. He's done he did Hush, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty. Yeah, that's what I know him from. Cover art by Tom Coker, developed by Kevin Gardner and Sean Lewis. Now, what is Survival? Well, I'm not going to tell you what the short elevator pitch line was, because I think that sort of spoils it a little bit. The synopsis: when Emma Reed journeyed back to her hometown in Alaska, she was expecting little more than a tense family reunion at the annual military alumni get-together. You know that old...
I'm always at that.
Yeah. But early that morning, a plane crash landed in the thick woods near the mountain, and the creature within brings an ancient terror to the last American frontier and will turn this unspoiled wilderness into a killing ground. So it's an action horror, basically, of... it's not a spoiler to say that this is vampires, because it says it pretty much got it directly from the tin. In fact, the V of the Survival logo has that kind of... It's even got that kind of design. You kind of know where that's going to go. I was trying to think, why is it called Survival? But then it hasn't so much said it in the first issue, but it is those sort of like survivalists, those like the military combat. It is literally just a camp where, and you only see them briefly, but they're all there with their guns, and they've got like their the gazebos all sat round. They've got their big 4x4s. The sort of crowd that we're necessarily talking about. Probably NRA members, one and all.
Okay.
Yeah. And but she's going back, and but she was in the actual military, and she's so you immediately start off with this main character, who I presume we're going to follow through the whole series, driving back to see her family, but she's a bit concerned about it, strained relationships. But then, basically, it's almost like I want to say a vampiric outbreak kicks off, cutting festivities, for want of a better term, short. But there's more to it than that. The book immediately starts with, it's got a horror movie sort of setup, two kids finding a crashed plane. And they ride there on their bicycles, that classic sort of teenagers riding bikes. And they find basically the main villain, I think, who's there, who isn't like a Nosferatu-like character. I think there are other sort of vampire-like characters, but there's clearly a big bad in it. Seems to be slightly military dressed in his own way, but it gives no hints as to who he is right now. But it's interesting because before there is an attack on this these survivalist sort of pack, but one of the things that kicks off the attack, which I thought was quite interesting, is it's not all these vampires coming out of the trees straight away. You see this big bad. He's in the trees with a sniper rifle. Do you know what I mean?
In the trees.
He's in the trees. The trees. Yeah. So
Hands of Love. Hands of Love.
Yeah. So it is. Immediately, I thought that's quite unusual, because normally whenever vampires are treated it's like they have no need for weapons, do they? It's just fangs and claws, and there is a bit of that. There certainly is a bit of that. But you're seeing this main guy, like military trained, like firing this sniper rifle. I thought, this could be a bit more to this. Another thing that struck me is a lot of this happens in the day, so there's so you're already sort of dispensed with some of the cliches of vampire fiction. And there you can see people having blood transfusions, and it sort of ends on a good cliffhanger that made me want issue 2, which is on sale at the beginning of June. And the narration, there's narration in it which is a little more. We're seeing the action in the present, but the narration seems to be a letter from the future. Does that make sense? We're looking back on
right, okay. Yeah, okay, that's nice. Yeah. That's a nice dynamic. Nice dynamic way to tell a story, I think. Yeah.
The art is great. There are moments, it's so clean and crisp. It's nice to see like the bright sunshine, but also in some ways it makes certain scenes very sterile in some ways. Maybe that's how does it may sound. The colours are nice, but I think this would have been a lovely black and white book. Maybe black and white with a splash of red for the, for their blood itself and things like that. Because you have some, a large patch of green for the grass, where they're having this meetup, and it's just a big, because there's no texture on it. It's just characters like it looks like nothing. Do you know what I mean? It just looks like a sea of green. It's hard to explain, but the characters are all designed well. It moves at a certain pace. It does something. This is one slight thing. Have you ever had a book sometimes that you're thoroughly enjoying it, and then there's just something that takes you out of that scene for a brief second?
Yeah, man.
From a, but not in a sort of, not necessarily in a story, but just a delivery. The way that they've done something. And this is something I've seen in a few comics, actually. This could be down to, communication script to artist, etc. This scene that I really enjoyed about the vampire being a sniper, and he's just firing into this crowd of people, and it's all kicking off. You see the main woman's father, who's like a bit of a badass, and so he immediately says, "There's a sniper, get down." And you see like a big bit of typography saying boom, so you know that shots are there. And the next panel on the top of one of the pages, he's being shot in the shoulder, right? He's pushed someone down on the ground, so he saved their life. He's being shot in the shoulder, and certainly it hasn't taken him down. And you can see the blood splatter from his shoulder. He even looks like he's screaming something. And he could be barking orders. He could just be a badass and taking it and just barking orders. That would be cool. But the lettering itself is just a standard speech bubble that says, a standard speech bubble that just says, "We've got some unfriendlies."
Yeah, so they're trying to fit too much into a single panel there, aren't they?
It's so it's sort of, I was thinking, there's nothing wrong with the art. There's certainly almost nothing wrong with what's being said. But it's that moment that just kind of
there's ways of doing stuff, about fitting stuff into a panel, and it's something that we all negotiate, don't we, when we're making a comic?
Yes,
it is something of a jigsaw. I was thinking about it today actually, and I think one of the best examples I've seen of it was something I read on Vanguard today. Was when you do the multiple punching in that one scene, Dan.
Oh yes, that panel.
That could be a page of punching, but you do it so well because it's bang, 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 bang like this, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you can do it. But what you've got there is you've got almost three things going on. You've got saving the life, being shot, and trying to say something as well.
Yeah.
And trying to fit multiple things into a panel like that doesn't work.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're the writer putting that and you're the artist, you've got to come up to it and say, look, this isn't working here. Can we retool it or
it's a tense page and like lots of things are moving. I just sent you a picture of it.
He's only three. If it was me, I'd have put the words in before or after. I think probably before. Yeah.
And there's not even a sort of like.
It doesn't make sense.
It's not even him going, do you know what I mean? You see the action and see what I mean. It makes, the art is very capable.
It's out of sync as well because he's on the right of the panel. You've got him being shot first and him pushing her down next and then him saying that. He should be saying that before he gets shot because that's the motivation for him to push the girl on the floor.
Yeah.
If you cut it, so the panel is he's crouched going over the girls and he's getting shot in the shoulder and he says, "We got some unfriendlies." If you just said, "We got some unfriendlies," they're shooting over and then like a dash to indicate that he's been cut off mid-sentence. At least that would indicate he's talking and then he's been interrupted.
Yeah.
But when it's just like, I'm just getting shot, and they're going to say, "Oh, you've got some unfriendlies."
Yeah. There's also you have like when the first shot goes off, there's a big sort of bit of copy that says boom, so we know that shots been fired. During the rest of the scene, there's no other sort of sound effects. That doesn't happen again. It's almost like there's one shot. In fact, that boom is the only. It's a comic. Now that I think about it, there's not always loads of sound effects in it, so it's sort of they maybe could have helped a little bit more. I think. I mean, don't get me wrong. These are criticisms after the fact.
Of course.
I thoroughly enjoyed the comic book, but there is those sort of moments where, it's fascinating to look back and go, well, I would have done that. I don't want to backseat drive comics because they're hard enough work as it is. But there's just those little moments where if there's something impactful, like it's never happened to me, but I imagine being shot in the shoulder with a sniper rifle probably zings a bit.
Yeah, that's little.
Yeah.
Take a few ibuprofen for that.
Yeah.
At least makes you hesitate or stutter a little bit.
Yeah.
But then when you identify this and you think, right, okay, let's think if I do this going forward, I've got to make sure that I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I've got to take that into account.
Yeah.
And we've all fucked up making comics. And
man.
We always
every day.
Yeah.
And like I say, like the action in the rest of it is very sort of. It feels very real and kinetic, and the way that figures move. There's the art's great in it. It was just that one moment, and I thought, just highlight that. Just something to bear.
Yeah, it's worth talking about, man.
Yeah, worth bearing in mind if you have like a powerful bit of artwork. Be careful about your dialogue around it, because it could belittle the power of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
But be that as it may, I'll be back for Survival 2 at the beginning of June.
Nice.
Yeah, cool.
Just to see.
It sounds like it's up your street.
Yeah, it seems like it's. I mean, vampires. You've got to do something a little bit different with them, and I think that it's the setting that they've got. They're not necessarily painting it. It's an interesting set of characters, so I'm interested to see how they're going to write these.
Yeah.
So yeah, Survival #1 from Dark Horse. Dark Horse, who are putting out some very interesting books. Don't sleep.
They
on
are
Dark,
actually. Yeah, we've done a few
on
recently.
Yeah, don't sleep on Dark Horse, people. Because I think they're putting out some good stuff. And that's my one. Okay, Tony, what's yours?
Last one came through from the reviewed Tsunami, as we refer to it, that came through. So one of the books from that. This is Samsara issue 1. It's 36 pages, full color, published by Marcosia, written by Sriram Swaminathan, illustrated by John Henry Esteban. I couldn't find any credits in the comic, and bizarrely, there's not a copyright notice. So I'm guessing this is some kind of sort of pre-print file that I got sent through.
Okay.
I actually had to go searching for the artist's name because Sriram didn't put it in the email to us, and I had to sort of figure out who did what. There was no credits inside or on the Marcosia or the Drive-Through Comics pages, or I think the Comixology page as well. On the cover, there's a guy called a person called Mariam Yasser Farouk. I don't know what that person does. Maybe colorist or letterer, maybe editor. I'm not sure. So come on, credit where credit's due when you're doing this sort of thing. I think it would have been made my job a bit easier. It's 4 issues of a 12 issue. This is the first of 4 issues, which forms volume 1 of a 12 issue run. So I'm guessing it's 4 issues. So a 3-volume run in a series. It's genuinely like a massive grand epic. There's multiple characters and groups of characters, and it's set in a land called Arya, which is an imagined fantasy environment that is inspired by the India of the 1600s. There's a holy crusade going on type group of characters, and there are sort of various factions who are pitted in war and aggression and politics against each other, both from inside and outside of the Arya lands. One of the main characters is called Lakshman, and he is the human host for a much-discussed world serpent. Very much a setup issue, saying that it doesn't fail in providing action as well. So it does, we see some of these setup issues that are just a lot of talking heads and people driving to a town or landing a plane or something. But this one actually does. It does push it on. I think you'll probably need a card index to work out who each person is and what they're doing by the time you reach the end of the saga. I don't think that's a bad thing, though. I think people are used to that now. With Game of Thrones, I just kept having to look fucking Game of Thrones up on Wikipedia because I lost track of who was who. But it's kind of the coolness now, isn't it? It's a big meaty read. I would have liked maybe a slightly different structure, but it's definitely a brave endeavor. There's an opening sequence which I sent to you guys, which is kind of like telling the legend of what is going on. So this sort of backstory of the magical legend that's going on. And what they do is they do it as if it's being read off a sandstone, like I don't know the nearest things to do it, like hieroglyphics almost, or and they do it off that, but it's all done in this really muddy brown look to it. And I honestly, if it hadn't been for me reviewing this, I probably wouldn't have made my way through it. I would have skipped it. It comes off as a little dull. I think maybe what she maybe could have done was dropped us straight into one of the battles to start with and then gone back and talked about it. He's trying to juggle a lot in this. Solid art. There's a couple of transitions, or there's a number of transitions between panels that I think they need to think about. There's too many something just happens moments. Does that make sense? With no lead in. Comics is a sequential series of images that provide a story. And I think just showing things rather than a story of things happening, I think sometimes is a mistake. I mean, it's definitely got a long eye on a much bigger story. And I give them absolutely brilliant credit for that. I think it's I like that. I like they did it. I'm not sure if it was the file we got sent through, but it was quite low res. So a lot of the, there's a sort of fuzziness to some of the images, which I think I probably need to see a sharper copy of it. And it doesn't have doesn't end with anything. So the last page is just the last page of the file. It doesn't say.
Okay. I presume it's just like a print file then, like a review thing or something, not the actual thing. I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not. Yeah, I do genuinely hope not, because he's trying to do something, I think, here.
Yeah.
There's the obviously criticism of credit where credit's due, and think about how a comic works. and there's some narrative structure issues. I don't think he should have gone in for like 4 or 5 pages of just this sort of muddy brown history thing going on at the start. I'd have done something differently. But yeah, credit to you. I know he very kindly sent it through. I think it's going somewhere. It's nice to see us stretching the bounds of what a fantasy story is. You know, we're all too often just caught up in a wood with a load of elves, aren't we? I mean, this sort of thing I like. You can get copies at Comixology, Drive Through Comics, or you can go and have a look at it at the Marcosius site. So that's my next one, my second one, my last one. Samsara issue 1.
Can I make a shout about that? Like, if you're sending out review copies like that, it's always worth like attaching something to the book, like saying this is a work in progress or this is an early copy or something. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes, like this instance, I might have got that review copy in, send it on to you guys, but the accompanying email doesn't go with it, so you don't know.
Yeah, there was an email with it. Yeah, there was an email with it, I think, and it did explain what it was about, which is where I took the name of the land from and stuff like that, you know. But it does explain it. However, I think, right, let's just for a second pretend I don't know anything about computers, guys. He sent the email, it had the comics attached to it rather than a link to a Google Drive. So I'm guessing there's only so much of a file size you can send on an email like that. Does that make sense?
It can, it can be. I usually with like a Google email as well. If it's over like 25 meg, I think it immediately puts it to a Google Drive link.
Yeah. So it might have been better as a Google Drive link, I think, maybe. But yeah, it just sort of slightly fuzzy. I was reading on just a normal iPad, and it was coming over as a bit blurry here and there. But that's it's not like that in the proper sale. No. That's nobody's bother. But that's my second one. There you go, guys.
There you go.
Nice.
Lots of stuff to check out, to think about, and generally just enjoy the world of comics as always. That's what we aim to tell you about every week, and we hope you have enjoyed this week's episode and all that came within it. My brain seems to have sorted itself out from the absolute mess it was at the start of the show.
Drunk again.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Man, having a few drinks in the blazing sun is a killer. That's me done.
Oh, God, yeah. I know.
Having a few drinks these days for me is rubbish. I had four espresso martinis in a restaurant this week. It was a fucking mess. Not only was I drunk, but I also couldn't sleep.
Dear God. And it's never good when you've had too much to drink and you can't sleep properly.
I know.
And you can feel the alcohol leaving your system.
Yeah, and the caffeine.
The worst. Oh, God. You should write a book about it, Tony.
Me and my mate, we go to this same Indian, right? Meet up every couple of weeks, go to the same Indian and have a meal. And the waitress just turns up and giggles at us because we're like a couple of old bastards. I remember last time my mate was telling the wait. Well, yeah. Well, last time my mate was telling the waitress about it, how he'd just seen the doctor, and the doctor had said he had the knees of a much younger man. She's like, fucking hell.
Yeah, where'd he go with that?
I know. Why? Yeah.
There you go. Look after your knees, everyone. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
And we hope you enjoyed this week's episode and everything that we talked about. If there's anything you want us to discuss on it, upcoming shows, if you've got any charity events, if you've got any local comics indie events, small press events, and this goes worldwide, no matter where you are in the world, we'll shout out about it.
We will.
So it's not that's just not UK based. Just let us know and we will shout out about your event.
And thanks to everyone who fucking shouted about mine and Falpe's and everyone's Kickstarter this week. It is really kind. I
still
really
time to back
appreciate it. Yeah, there is. And I honestly, every time I see someone, some people have done it a number of times, I was thinking, fucking ain't that nice? You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's all about bringing the niceness in the world.
Yeah. If you want people to shout out about your Kickstarter, return the favour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shout out about other people's Kickstarter. So you're sitting there thinking, why is someone talking about mine? It's like, well, scratch each other's backs here.
Do you know what encouraged me to talk about someone's Kickstarter? If they've got a genuine, unfettered love for comics.
Yeah.
That's what encourages me.
And if you're on the Slack, I'll
you get it. You get it if you're on the Slack. Let's
Slack
get that on t-shirts.
The Slack channel, the Slack channel, which of course you are free to join. It's a wonderful community of people on there. Just get in touch. The Awesome Comics Podcast Slack group. Yeah. I'm not sure what the actual address is for it. We'll have to sort
just message one of us and we'll get the link to you. It's easy. Yes. It's the nicest place, ever so friendly.
There's lots of different sort of groups and channels for different topics of conversation. Or if you just
crowdfunding,
if you just want to keep the conversation of this episode going, or any of the books or anything that we've talked about in comics, please keep the conversation going because that's how we keep comics alive.
There's a channel for that.
Yeah. And if you want to get in touch with us, there's several different ways you can do it. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. You can follow us on social media at The Awesome Pod. I've just shouted out the Slack channel, so there you go. Just join it again. That's how much I care. And thank you for listening to us, whether it was on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, please just say something nice or subscribe. Helps get the word out about this show and everyone and that listens everything we talk about and every week and the comics that we talk about. If you listen to us on any other networks like Spotify, Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife, what other networks are we on, Tony?
We're also on the Pod Network called This Week. I was reading a lot of new DC and Marvel books, and they've encouraged me to side with AI.
Jesus Christ.
You're obsolete, old man.
They're so bad, I think AI could do it.
Right, Tony. Right, let's just... I just want to say...
hand grenade thrown.
Tony
has... Well, that's just the podcast he was listening to.
Yeah. What he's just said does not necessarily
reflect.
We do not condone or his actions.
That fucking picture I got sent through with the robot, the comic cover, and he goes, "You're now obsolete, human," and he's like, "Obsolete these nuts, Tin Man."
I don't mean it. Everyone knows.
Yes. Satire. And if you want more of that,
but they were shit.
Genuinely positive comic book content, then where can people find us online, etc.? Tony.
Thank you for asking, Vincenzo. You can find us for another 10 days on the Dirty Basement 1 and 2 Kickstarter.
Lovely. Dan.
You can find me on Twitter at Vanguard Comic, and you can read Vanguard at vanguardcomic.com.
I mean, you're on a roll, Dan. It's just, the intensity.
Boom.
Yeah.
Well, we was musing today, weren't we, Tony, that there's the Lethal Legion comic that's not too lethal, but...
Calling it... Honestly, if you're going to call a comic the Lethal Legion, don't then do all the publicity for it saying it's got loads of hijinks in it. It doesn't sound very fucking lethal, does it?
Stealing pies that are cooling on windowsills,
knocking on neighbours' doors and running off.
Scrubbing grapple.
Isn't this lethal? Oh dear, there's a comic book in there somewhere. And you can find me on social media at Justin Diablo. Thank you very much for listening, as always. Whenever you listened or wherever you listen. Once again, a big shout out to everyone that's just started listening to this show. Notice our numbers bump up a little bit, and we hope you're enjoying it. Yeah. So join us next week for more comic book chat. And who knows what you might learn. Well, one thing you'll definitely learn is that the three of us are completely unprofessional every week. But that's why we get people on who actually know what they're talking about. Anyway,
we're taking their money for this, so we can be professionals you like.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you complain, you can fuck off.
Yeah. We're about to do some drugs and figure out what to do with our lives. But
finger our bottoms.
Too far. There is a line, Tony.
Yeah, I've told you I'm bringing it back.
Yeah, bringing sexy back.
Bringing fingering back. That was going to be the alternative title of that song.
Right. Okay. I know where this episode's going. So join us next week, folks.
Held off quite a bit there. Look at that.
Yeah. Well done. You did quite well.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, wherever you are in the world. We hope you're happy, healthy, enjoying the comics you're reading, because that's what we're in it for. And wherever you are, then I think, where is she? What should they be doing, guys?
Stay awesome.
Bye, everyone.
Finger bums.
See you later. Finger those bums. Do it now.
How do we do it now?